So unfortunately, Mortal Kombat Annihilation lost round 2.
So we're going to take a little break from the fight this episode to look at something just a little bit different.
That's going to be Mortal Kombat Legacy, Season 1 and 2.
Test your might.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Mortal Kombat Week here on the Horror Show channel. I'm Cecil Laird.
Jaime, Cecil.
Robert Duell.
And we are here to talk about the fan-made, I guess you could call this fan-made, right? Because it was independently made by people on YouTube. They did utilize professional Hollywood actors, but we are here to talk about Mortal Kombat Legacy Seasons 1 and 2. Now, did either of you guys actually get a chance to watch that prequel film?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Rebirth, yes.
Rebirth.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that
which
first.
was the proof of concept that he paid for out of his own pocket, and that got him the money to make these two series.
Right.
That was actually, I was very impressed with that when I first came across that on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's, again, where I first watched it and everything. And I was pretty blown away, even by just the simple practical effects. Like we had Baraka in there and everything like that. Like, it looked awesome.
It was a dude, it was a human that had converted himself into essentially Baraka via
surgeon.
via body modification.
Yeah.
So that was a really fucking cool. It was a 7-minute short. Mortal Kombat Rebirth, you said, right?
Rebirth.
And it also had Michael Jai White playing Jax,
And
which
Jerry
again,
Ryan.
the
Jerry
tie-in,
Ryan playing Sonya
right?
Blade.
How's this for the tie-in, Robert? Because he played Spawn in the Spawn movie that you talked about.
Well, also, what's cool though is, like, even with Rebirth, so the guy who plays Hanzo or Scorpion also played Scorpion in the concept.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
When Jax is in there in the interrogation room. Yeah, it's the same dude who's playing Hanzo and the rest of it.
That's cool.
So they just put a wig on him or something, or like
They just grew out his hair or something. But yeah, so it was basically a proof of concept where Jax and Sonya, again played by Jerry Ryan,
7 of 9.
they were investigating, some crimes that were going on in the real world by Mortal Kombat characters that were essentially humans that had modified themselves into characters, which to me,
or like reptile born with the birth defect.
Right. Well, to me, it was very reminiscent. This is only going to strike home with comic book readers, but Brian Azzarello did a book called Joker, where it was about. It was as if Joker was in the real world, and all of the Batman villains were in the real world. So, like, Killer Croc was a huge muscular dude with a skin condition, right? And like it was stuff like that. It was real world explanations for Mortal Kombat characters.
That's the one that was told from the perspective of like his driver or something.
Yeah, his number one. Yeah, essentially. But it was really good, and so was this. And this was, like Fuego said, the proof of concept. It did well enough where they got funding to make the first season of Mortal Kombat Legacy, which was a 9-episode YouTube series with episodes varying in length from like 6.5 minutes to 12 minutes, and 9 episodes of that equaling just about a 80-minute movie as they gathered them all together on the DVD and Blu-ray. But this was every episode, except for a few, which were most episodes were one-offs, and then some episodes were 2-episode stories.
Like the
it was essentially an
one
anthology of Mortal Kombat's universe. So the first couple episodes were about Jax, Sonya, and Kano, and then you got an episode featuring Sub-Zero and Scorpion. You got an episode featuring Cyrax and Sector. You had episodes featuring a lot of different people in the Mortal Kombat universe, and it was telling gritty, real-world origin stories for these characters. This whole first season was a setup for the actual tournament. They didn't actually go to the tournament in this. It was just each one was a setup for all the characters, or most of the characters, right? So
yeah, well, that's the cool thing actually they did with this, is because this was technically considered a prequel.
It is.
Oh, to the 95 movie?
It is.
Yeah,
really?
It's
a prequel to the tournament.
That's why.
No, how could it be? Because the
there's
second one takes place 10 years after the tournament when Liu Kang supposedly beheaded Shang Tsung, which he did not do in the 95
There's some
movie.
revisionist stuff in the seccking series,
Yeah,
which I had some issues with,
Okay.
you know, but they talk at one point in Legacy Season 1 about the fact that the 9 tournaments have been won by Outworld and the 10th one, so it is technically before it in that regard, but
I mean, sorry, my overall thoughts, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It did very much the same thing that the director that did the Dirty Laundry Punisher fan film, as well as the Power Rangers. Adi Shankar or something like that.
Yeah, the guy who did went on to do Castlevania.
Yeah, but then he also did the Power Rangers dark fan film, right?
With
So
Dawson,
all of this stuff was
awesome.
really in vogue around this time, and this came out at the same time, and it was just as high quality with actors that you knew, including a guy that's gone on to a huge career that played Stryker in that first season.
Oh yeah, I recognized him, and Stryker has never been a character I gave much of a shit about.
No,
but he was good in this.
Yeah, I was really excited. So yeah, season 1 was awesome. We'll talk about season 2 separately, but starting with season 1, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome too, man. And the fact that it did still kind of feel incomplete, or like it just kind of
it felt very cliffhanger-y,
you know, and ostensibly absent Liu Kang. You know, despite all of the exploring the
it didn't feel absent to me. It's just that it felt full with everything that we did get.
It was just very strange because Liu Kang always, and at least as far as the films, positioned him to be the main character of Mortal Kombat, and for him not to be in this.
But he wasn't. He was just one of 7 fighters.
Over time, it's become more so about like the Scorpion Sub-Zero kind of conflict, and that's explored very well here. I also really enjoyed the 2-parter exploring.
And I would have
exploring Kitana and Sindel and Melina, and the fact that it was half animated, half live action. I thought that was pretty dope. I think that was probably more of a budgetary kind of approach, you know, for that reason.
Worked.
And I also liked the approach of the Johnny Cage character, in the fact that he's washed up, and they really just captured that feeling of him desperately trying to put a show together and just not being able to succeed. I thought that was
bought
really
into
great.
everyone.
Yeah, most definitely did.
Yeah, this first season was really well done. The only gripe I have is the actor of Johnny Cage. I did not like him at all.
He was a little too whiny.
I wanted to take a brick to his face. I could not stand him, and their recasting in season 2 was much better.
They went with a name in the second season.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, like for this first season, especially on the small backstories that we finally get on some of the characters, and like even what Fuego was saying is, like the Melina and Katana stuff. I actually really liked how they did the animations. Again, I'm sure it was the budgetary stuff, but it's sometimes easier to do it like that to be able to tell that fuller story.
I love mixed media when it's done well.
Truly.
Yeah, and it was done well. But the greatest thing I could say about this web series in general is it's brutal. It's Mortal Kombat. Like, people are getting killed, and it's fucking awesome.
They're dropping F-bombs.
I feel like they did a more specific, well done job in season 2 of the fatalities and stuff.
2 in particular.
But we'll get to that. But yes, this was still brutal in this one.
Yeah, it was, especially when the Jackson Kano fight.
Yeah.
And everything, where he literally
punches his fucking eye
straight
out.
Like, just shatters his orbital. But at the same time, though, I wouldn't want to get hit by Michael Jai White.
No.
Like, you kidding me?
No.
Like, the guy's a beast.
I still feel like the gore and the practicality was probably the best, at least for me, in Rebirth. Like Reptile with the heads in his it felt like friggin' Saw or something to me, man.
I would love that version of a Mortal Kombat story.
I still think that was even more brutal than both installments of Legacy, personally.
But to me, that would only be good for like a one-off movie like Joker. You know what I mean? Like that vibe. Just one movie where it's the real-world incarnations of these fantasy characters and what it would be like.
And the fact that it didn't incorporate the ninjas or even barely mention the tournament. It was just really these killers who are out there and trying to figure out, what their agenda is, who they are, and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Even with the Johnny Cage and well, I'm just gonna call him Baraka, basically. The Baraka fight when he gets decapitated.
Yeah,
like that was crazy.
Which was so ironic because Johnny Cage punches people's heads off, and for him to get decapitated, it's like
yeah.
Well, and they immediately showed the nut punch with Johnny Cage in this, so they were adhering to character strengths and special moves and stuff. So and then I liked a lot of the effects that they did, the representations of the characters. I really did like the Sector and Cyrax episode. I thought that was cool, but the Scorpion and Sub-Zero stuff is what stood out the most to me. I truly think that is the most interesting story in Mortal Kombat.
And that's why it's
the Lin
become
Kuei
the
versus the
central...
Shiryu.
Yeah.
And I always had a really hard time remembering Scorpion's clan. The Lin Kuei was always easy to remember, and I always felt like they were making Sub-Zero the good guy in those games, but then it started to change over time. Which we find out, right? Because during that, we find out that the Sub-Zero we see isn't necessarily the Sub-Zero that we think. It's actually Quan Chi and stuff like that. So I dug how the story played out, and I really dug the actors trying to refocus this review again a little bit. So story and acting, well, no, it's not. It's all of our faults. Story and acting, I liked it all. I really liked the Raiden episode where they think he's crazy. I thought that was a fucking awesome idea for an episode. This is truly just a Mortal Kombat anthology show, and it does it so well that I can't sing enough praises for it. Yeah, and again, we're just sticking. Let's try and wrap up season 1.
Yeah. Truly, it was. It's more so than anything the grounded grittiness of this that worked so much for me, and the fact that it was very character driven, and there's very, very little fighting in this. You were actually getting.
Well, no, I don't disagree. I disagree with that.
Well, a moderate amount, but it felt like it felt character forward as opposed to combat.
Sure.
Forward,
okay. That's fair.
Which
that's
is what I appreciated so much about it.
Sure. Okay. Robert, final thoughts on season 1 before we move
on? Final thoughts. I would just say, I'm still extremely happy with how they've done the web series, and they did it right. So it's basically, if you guys haven't checked this out yet, highly recommend watching Legacy.
So season 2 though is maybe a little bit different. When I originally watched these, I watched season 1 and season 2 back to back because I had missed season 1 the first time around, and I remembered being a little disappointed with season 2. Upon rewatch, watching them all back to back, I was not as disappointed. I feel like they had stronger bits and weaker bits than the first season. So ultimately it was about on the same level, but I still really enjoyed season 2 of Legacy. It was still by far and away better than both of the Hollywood movies because of the way the story was told. We got the return of the Shang Tsung actor from the first movie.
That was my favorite
we got better people cast in some roles, worse people cast in other roles that we had in the first season. So it was a bit of a mixed bag, but I still think it's very, very good.
It was the same actor playing Scorpion, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Although, did they recast Raiden? I guess
yes. Yep.
Okay,
they recast Raiden.
They recast Johnny Cage, obviously.
Johnny Cage.
Casper Van Dien, my dude Johnny Rico. Starship Troopers.
And like I said, though, I was especially happy with that recasting of Johnny Cage. Casper Van Dien, I think, would obviously he does play a really good Johnny Cage, but we didn't really get to see him as much as what I'd like to have.
I liked the first season Raiden better than the second season Raiden.
Yeah, I did too.
I did too. I agree on that.
I didn't like Johnny Cage, one of my favorite characters in all of Mortal Kombat.
He was a pussy in this season.
He was a wuss, dude. Running away from the fights. No, he was a pussy. Okay, from the fights with
the capital P.
Yeah. From the fights with these ladies too and stuff,
he watched them fight and ran away. He watched another fight and ran away.
They make him in this series in particular. I honestly preferred the portrayal in Legacy Part 1 than Casper Van Dien.
The actor was worse, but the portrayal of the character was better in season 1.
Yeah,
exactly. That I will most definitely agree. Yes.
Yeah, Casper was just so snivelly, timid, scared shithead. I mean, if it's a character you're gonna just totally just shit on, that's what they did with this, and the sunglasses falling off, and then he comes in 2-on-1s. It's just, I don't know, man. I appreciated a lot about this, most notably fanboying out about the return of the original Shang Tsung actor. I thought that was really cool. It's debatable whether this dark Liu Kang who's flirting with going over to the other side. I mean, really, it was fascinating that they set this after the first video game, after the first tournament, and to just, the fact that Johnny Cage did what they did, because remember,
this is meant to be the same one. That they're leading into with Legacy.
No.
Yeah, it is, because it's Scorpion right after what happened in the first Legacy.
Because they talk in Legacy 2 about the fact that he won, and then Kung Lao and him have those discussions.
He won 10 years ago. He won 10 years ago.
Yeah,
so now this is again 10 years later, but it's still what happened after the first Legacy.
Well,
the first Legacy. That's what I'm saying. The first Legacy was still leading into this. But this is 10 years after. So Legacy 1 was still 10 years after Liu Kang's loss as well.
I actually think that the first Legacy, at least from what I understood, was before that said 10th tournament.
It was supposed to be, yes.
And then this takes place a bunch of time after he
No, because
won
this
that
is the
tournament.
same Scorpion that just lost his family. It's not 10 years later.
But they were flashing back to Scorpion's family being killed like way in the past, though.
I didn't feel like it was way in the past. Maybe you're right.
Robert, help me out here.
Maybe he was in hell 10 years, like Spawn was. Maybe there's more ties than we thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like with the whole backstory with Hanzo and Baihan, Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Yeah, that happened fucking long ass time prior
Japan, as they said. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because that
but Baihan is still the same age when he's fighting. How can that be?
Well,
he's dead.
Well, why is Quan?
He's not dead. Baihan's not dead in Legacy Volume 2.
Why is Quan Chi?
He's alive. He gets his fucking head and spine ripped out.
Why is Quan Chi like 800, 900
That's
years
what I'm saying. No, this happens the
Hanzo.
same time as Legacy 1. It does. This is right after Legacy 1 because Baihan is still the same age as he was in Legacy 1.
I still contend that
the Liu Kang loss just happened 10 years before Legacy 1. Because we didn't see Liu Kang in Legacy 1, so that could very well be.
Well, I guess we'll agree to disagree. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't ultimately matter.
Yeah.
But nonetheless...
Well, even right here, it basically already says, like, the episodes are non-linear with minimal continuity.
Okay. So we're fighting over something even the showrunners were like, fuck it.
Yeah, but
exactly. That's why I'm like, wait a minute, let me look this up real quick.
Yeah, because didn't it seem like it was revising and giving a little bit more context about how there's two Sub-Zeros and, more about just the conflict between the clans and stuff. That was something they did address pretty well in this, and the younger brother, older brother factor, with the Lin Kuei and everything. So I don't know. Bottom line, it went in fascinating directions in some ways. I wasn't so big on the who is the blind guy whose name is
Kenshi.
I
liked
Kenshi. The whole Kenshi Ermac stuff. I wasn't so into that. I think I said Quan Chi earlier when I meant Kenshi. Many names by the time you got to like Deadly Alliance and Deception, and they just kept adding more characters. And so, I mean, some of it worked for me, some of it did not. This felt kind of cheesier and more like the films to me in comparison with the gritty groundedness of Legacy 1, but that's just my personal assessment. So.
Again, I'm going to reiterate that I think the fatalities were taken farther in this one. I liked that each episode, once they got to the island, so after episode 3, it felt like until they got to the Scorpion Sub-Zero stuff again, where they basically just put a story before and a story after the Legacy Part 1 stories. Yeah. The other episodes that acted like one episode per fight, I thought that was brilliant framing, right? So one was the Kenshi fight, one was, the fight with Melina and Katana, and then another was, another fight that ended in a fatality, and I was like, this is great. And, one episode for each fight, that's a great way to do this. And that was more structured than I feel like, well, not more structured. The first season was structured just in a different way. I feel like if you're going to do a Mortal Kombat show, of the actual tournament, one episode for each, focusing on each fight, is a really smart way to do it.
Yeah, and especially with the flashback component of giving a little context.
Yes,
between
exactly.
the two characters.
That Kenshi, the actual pacing of the Kenshi episode could sustain a Mortal Kombat TV series easy, where you do one character getting the invite to the tournament, and then you show their backstory as to why they would have gotten that invite. And then they go to the island at the end of that episode. That, like, the first 5 episodes is that, and then the back 5 episodes is fucking, you know, the tournament itself for a 10-episode lean Mortal Kombat machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what season 2 is, because it was just reading here. The second season was strictly meant to be just on a cover of the tournament. The first one was just that backstory getting that's the thing.
He says that, but it still took 3 of the 10 episodes in season 2 to get to the island.
Yeah.
Still, though, I felt like there was more character crossover.
And we had no resolution. We got a cliffhanger ending.
Yeah, cliffhanger, and then
Liu versus Kung Lao.
Couldn't get the financing.
I love the actor they got to play Kung Lao. He's so perfect for it.
Thank you. Yes.
And I like their dynamic a lot. You know, just the conflict of interest and Kung Lao
I almost cried.
Calm and composed and stoic. And when
almost cried.
Hit him,
yes, when he hit him.
And he didn't do anything.
And like the disappointment welled up in his eyes like tears. And he just lowered his head and he turned to leave. And I was like, fuck, bro, that got me. Why did that get me so good? Like, that dude is a solid actor. Holy shit. Gotta shout out the acting in this season.
Yeah, no, it was very strange.
Well, most definitely, because again,
Kung Lao almost brought me to tears, for fuck's sake. I mean, come on.
Well, it's nice when you have known actors and everything that can actually bring their talents to this.
I kind of like. I think this is a perfect. I would love to see Robin Shu in his heyday versus this Liu Kang, to see like bright Liu Kang versus dark Liu Kang. Because I thought they both presented different versions of Liu Kang very well.
Yeah. Well, this guy especially would be more like, he's more on like Liu Kang of like 7 and 8.
Yeah, when he's bad. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's more of like what he is. But honestly, I really liked what they did with that backstory. Like after because again, like they were saying like he left the Temple of Light, he chose his own path and everything in America. This shit happened and everything like that. He went bad. And then came back on for the tournament.
Just make sure you don't sing a particular song in karaoke around.
Yeah, okay, relax about that. Let's just
relax. Don't do it.
No, and they used that song quite a few times, like at least 2 or 3 times in it. But
it was like a solid 3 times in like what 10-12 minutes.
So I'm gonna try and start the wrap up here and say that Mortal Kombat Legacy seasons 1 and 2, as a whole, they're a little bit different. Seasons 1 and 2 are just a little bit different from each other, but as a whole, they're both extraordinarily worth your time to sit down and watch. Both of them are still on YouTube. You can still watch both of them for free if you don't want to get the Blu-rays, but I recommend having them because you can get this little set for, I mean, the place I got it was available for like $16. You get the Blu-rays of 1, 2, and Legacy Part 1, and the Spawn Blu-ray. So you just have to buy Legacy Part 2 for yourselves after that, and you have the collection. And they're worth owning. And there's behind the scenes of the Legacy stuff on the Blu-rays as well.
On the first one, there is. It's all about, getting funding and like the fan aspect, expanding the whole Nether Realm sort of thing. And that is the one thing to keep in mind, is that even though this was independently made initially, it was basically given the blessing by Warner Media, which is why they distributed it as a Blu-ray. It's like Warner Brothers put this out after the fact,
So yeah, final thoughts, Robert, please. Yeah.
This is another prime example of a fan film done right. Like when you have actual love behind your property that you want to bring to other viewers, it shows. When you're just trying to do a cash grab, it shows.
Yeah, in our experience with fan films, we've seen a little bit of both, and also Dylan's New Nightmare. Keep an eye on.
Indeed, guys. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe. Join us tomorrow where we have a special Mortal Kombat reaction episode. None of us had been caught up on something very Mortal Kombat. The fatality.
This one goes to 11.
So yeah, we're going to sit down and react to all of those tomorrow, and then we'll be back on Friday to review Mortal Kombat 2021. I have such high hopes that it is going to be as good as that trailer leads us to believe. But thus endeth the 3rd day of Mortal Kombat week here with our review of Mortal Kombat Legacy Seasons 1 and 2. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel. I've been Cecil Laird.
I've been Jaime.
Robert Duell.
And remember, guys, stay
Get over
scared.
here!